Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Engineering Money, the podcast where some full-time engineers are just trying to survive. Tim isn't here. He's gone.
Just out here doing your best.
He left us.
Yeah,
And
Tim's
now
gone.
we just have to try to make it through without him.
Survive.
And I think it'll be really easy. I think Tim weighs
But
us down.
apparently he's going to some parks and stuff, so he better have new
Yeah,
backgrounds
Tim is
when he comes back.
overcompensating his lack of friends by taking lots of trips this summer.
Nature is his friend.
Yeah. So Joey, it's my week, and today we're gonna talk about wood.
Ooh, rude.
Oh man. And actually, I think Tim's gonna be really sad when he hears what we talked about today because, just like myself, he is also an amateur woodworker as like a hobby.
Oh, right, yeah.
Um,
He does a ton of that stuff.
yeah, but yeah, we're talking about lumber futures and just the general lumber market and then consequences of that moving forward. But yeah, so lumber. If you guys aren't, if the listeners aren't plugged in, it kind of went full GME Bitcoin over the past month.
Dogecoin.
Yeah, Dogecoin. It's just popping off like crazy. And let me get a better
Is there
range here.
a
Let's
Wall
just look at
Street
it.
bets for lumber futures?
I don't think so. But yeah, so this is,
Oh
let's
my
go to the
gosh.
past month. This is the past month.
Wow.
It
It
started
is
out,
like a perfect example of exponential growth.
yeah, so this is just the
It's like
random
day after
length
day.
lumber futures. Um, it's crazy. So it hit over $1,300 for every 1,000 board feet of.
Mm,
So this is just like
1,000.
2x4s, the standard
So
length.
right. 1,000 board. Okay, that makes sense.
So board
And because it's a
feet.
future contract, if you actually buy the future contract,
Mhm.
like a rail car of lumber will show up, or
Yeah.
you'll have to figure out how to transport.
Yep. It's 1,000 board feet of usually it's 2x4s. But yeah, it's great. So um, part of this is just a consequence of the pandemic and um, bad calls that were made early on in terms of the supply chain. So when
Because everyone thought toilet paper was going to use up all the wood in the world.
well, it wasn't quite that. It was because this is like building material, futures
Oh,
material.
right. Yeah.
Um, and when the pandemic first hit, we thought everything was going to halt. So, and nobody wanted just a huge supply of wood. So people stopped ordering it. But we saw um, not only just a level off, but like people have been using wood more. Like
Oh, like
new home
new homes have been
production
up.
did not really get affected by the pandemic. Um, and then a positive change from the pandemic was people taking care of their homes more, doing like projects at home, people
That
going to
that
like Home
tracks.
Depot and getting stuff themselves.
That's been my life since August.
Yeah. Um, and it's really just this past month, the price is starting to correct and skyrocket because we have low supply in terms of what people are actually ordering and high demand from the end user, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. One of my fun party facts, and by fun party fact, I mean things people get annoyed at Joey for telling them, is that lumber is a renewable resource. And everyone's like, oh, you gotta save paper to not use trees. But the thing is, if more paper companies are planting trees to cut down, then you just have more acreage of forest being used for lumber renewed year after year. So really go buy paper, use paper bags instead of plastic bags.
Yeah. Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize that most lumber does not come from native forests. There
Right.
are,
It's not like you're chopping down the rainforest to get lumber.
yeah, there are farms that produce trees that are specifically made for lumber. And right now, like, that's why this is sort of a weird situation, because there is a crap ton of wood out there that goes
There's a lot of
to,
trees in the world.
yeah, that goes specifically for lumber used for like construction and things like that. And it
Yeah.
was the middleman during the lockdown that made those sort of split decisions, like, okay, things are going to shut down. I don't want to have a ton of inventory, so I'm not going to produce. So the producers are still producing.
Right.
And
They're
now
not
it's the
just going to be like,
middleman
sorry,
that's sort of like,
trees don't grow anymore.
yeah. Mm-hmm. And then the middleman was like, you know what, I'm going to stop buying. So that's where the bottleneck is right now. Um, and it's, yeah, just now sort of catching up in terms of the futures pricing. And so, yeah, betting in futures is risky.
So then this
because
chart you're showing is for the month, right?
this is just
Can you
one
zoom
month.
out? What's it looked like over the past
So this is
couple
year
of
to
years?
date. This is the past year.
It's had some ups and downs.
And yeah, so here was the pandemic right here.
Okay.
So it was at
So that lost like what, half
it
its
was
value?
just yeah, it was just under, it was like 450 for 1,000 board feet of lumber. Then the pandemic shot it down to 250 for the same quantity. And then since April 1st of 2020, it's basically a little over a year, it's gone
About a
from
year.
$250 per 1,000 board feet to $1,300, almost $1,400 per board feet. And I think so. I didn't actually see
Ooh.
this happen live, but I did read that there were actually a few times this past week where they actually had to halt trading on the futures
Oh,
because it was like breaking circuits.
dang.
Like it was
Right.
crazy.
Yeah, you don't think of boring things like wood tripping circuit breakers into markets and shutting it down like GameStop.
Yeah, it's crazy. So there are a few stocks that I have here written down that have seen similar movements that deal in the raw material stuff. So like looking at producers. So a lot of wood is grown in Canada. A lot of these companies are Canadian, imported to the U.S. And also domestic. So we got
Right.
WFG.
Canada's got a lot of lumber. There's
It,
just a bunch of
oh yeah.
conifers up there and not a lot of people, so it's a
So this is
good lumber.
West Fraser Timber Company. They're based in Vancouver, so right by where I am.
Mhm. Okay.
And let's see if I can make this chart percentage, because that's what we want to
That's the
know.
key. If you
There it is.
compare, can you like compare it
Yeah.
to something and then it'll show us
Oh yeah.
percentage?
Mm-hmm. So West Fraser has just gone off the rails over the past year.
Gosh, look at the volume. It looks, if we're looking at this chart, folks, the volume for the past, what is it, the entire year,
Since
it
the
looks
beginning of
flat, like
February.
at
Mm-hmm.
zero. And then
It just takes off.
when is that? February
Mm-hmm.
just takes off. Suddenly people are trading
Yeah,
it.
but even before February, like the past year, it's up 270%.
Right. Yeah, because it's kind of backwards. People, the general wisdom is that volume precedes price, but in this case, it looks like the price was going up for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Then suddenly people got in on it, and the trend just continued.
Yep. Yeah, I think it was right around the beginning of the year. Like this is kind of late. Us talking about this.
Yeah, it would be great if at the beginning of the pandemic we could have said, "Hey
Well, even
guys,
like at the
lumber's
end of
not
the
in
calendar
trouble.
year,
Buy."
because we were talking probably over the summer. at least I remember talking about like Home Depot and Lowe's.
Yeah. Well, and we were almost at the connection. I remember talking about, toilet paper shortage, and we brought up Kimberly Clark, which is they make diapers, but they really are a paper company.
Mm-hmm.
And lumber is one of their biggest inputs to their supply chain
Yeah.
because they make paper that makes their paper towels and everything. And I just remember that being an example of like, oh, look, the toilet paper shortage isn't what it looks like on face value. It's not really a shortage. It's a supply chain couldn't keep up for a minute. We were around the periphery of lumber. We almost talked about it.
Yeah. Yep. Um, yeah. So like a lot of these plays that I got. So WFG. Um, there's an American one. Uh, Louisiana Pacific. Has sawmills and
Ooh.
yeah, that was a 5-year chart. But even like
Ben, we're seeing a lot of up, up, up green charts.
for the past year, yeah. Mm-hmm. Um, but lumber, a lot of these companies are outperforming the market by a bunch too. Because yeah, you're right. It's
Because
easy.
that's a good
It's
point.
easy to pull up a 1-year chart now and have it just skyrocket. But
'Cause remember, the S&P 500 is up like 60%
yep,
in the past 12 months, which is bonkers. Remember, average is between 9 and 11.
yep.
So,
So yeah, things like this is up 300% over the past year. So outperforming by several times. Um,
yeah.
and
What is it makes me curious. I like to, when I see trends like this, what is the biggest player in this industry? Because for
mm,
them to grow a lot is more significant than a small company growing a lot.
yeah,
What's like the largest lumber player?
that's a really good question. Let's see if we can figure it out because I actually don't know. I do
Let's
know the
let's
lumber
do some
industry
research.
is pretty spread out. Um,
Uh-huh. It would be under the materials sector, right?
yeah, basic materials, and then they might even have yeah
Paper and
lumber and wood
forest
production.
products. Right?
So there's only 5 um,
Interesting.
major players in publicly traded, and the largest one
Oh, sure. Yeah, when you have a lot of private
yeah.
involvement.
So the largest one that's publicly traded is that West Fraser that we showed,
Okay.
based in Canada.
What's their market cap?
Market cap is 9.25 billion.
Okay,
Yep.
okay. Yeah, looking at paper and forestry products, I see Louisiana Pacific Corp at 7 billion is the largest.
Okay. Yeah. So they're not
So it
none of
sounds
there's no real like giant in the
yeah, because
lumber
even those
industry.
those are would be considered medium caps. No large caps, no mega caps.
Yep. Um but here's the thing, like the the obvious question to ask right now is, have we missed out completely?
Or
Um
or can we catch the rocket to the moon?
yeah, I want to pull back up the actual
Well,
the
the
futures
litmus
here.
test then is has this story been in the news yet? Because once it's in the news, we're too late.
Mm. I mean,
Has
yeah, there's
CNBC reported on
articles
it?
there's articles out there, but I don't know. Um, I haven't seen any huge like I've seen a Barron's article
Okay.
about
I feel
the
like
wood market. But so here's the thing: is it too late? Um, the closest thing we can look at is in 2018. There's a pretty significant tick up in lumber, followed by a drop right back down. But the thing about these lumber mills, almost all of them pay out pretty decent dividends. Um,
ooh, that
which,
makes those downturns easier to
oh
ride
yeah,
out.
mm-hmm, yep. So let's pull back up like the Louisiana Pacific here. Um, go to a 1-year chart. So they pay out quarterly dividends, 16 cents a quarter, and they are. Let's go. Yeah, so there's 67, 60. What would that be a quarter? Okay. Times 4. So that's actually not great. That's 1% dividend.
Yeah, yeah, that's chump change.
Chump change.
But just commodities like this, I think, are
Yeah.
intriguing to
West
me.
Fraser's similar, probably like 1%.
I feel like it's just a appealing concept, the idea of a commodity where the demand curve is flat. No matter how much of this stuff you produce, people will always pay whatever the market price is for
Yep.
it. It's not like you can advertise and say, hey, we have better lumber than other people. Buy ours, it's more expensive. There's no luxury item. It's all one price. And so the only question is, how much can you
Yep.
make? And it's just kind of a, I don't know. I think it appeals to me because you don't have to worry about all this weird competition gaming the system. It's just let's be the best sawmill we can be
Yeah.
and make the most lumber.
Exactly. Yeah, I still think there's more to ride here. But only time will tell.
Yeah, definitely want to keep our eye on it because we're definitely in a situation now that we just came out of a pandemic. It's feels optimistic going forward, and yet markets are still kind of shaky. There's some going up, some going down. So things like this are going to be interesting to watch because it has an impact on as a key material. I'm thinking actually, could you do this, Ben? Could you pull up a graph of Kimberly Clark KMB compared to, I don't know, the price of wood? It'd be interesting to see if you can see a correlation. Like, have they been impacted when the price went way down? Did they get a bunch of cheap inputs? And now that it's going up, it's hurt them.
Wow, Kimberly Clark's 1 year graph is kind of sad.
Yeah. So can you go 2 year? I want to see the coronavirus crash in this graph.
All right, so
So
here's
okay, so that's the interest.
wow. Yeah, here's
Yeah,
the
they like
crash.
didn't really crash. They went down and right back up. They didn't care because they were actually fine.
Yeah.
But they have not seen the meteoric rise that a lot of other companies have out of this crash. And I wonder if this lumber price issue is weighing them down. That's a huge input for
Mm.
a toilet paper maker.
Yeah,
And now their costs just keep going up.
that's something I'm not too sure about because so the futures that I was showing, those are um like cut lumber for construction
Right.
out of a sawmill.
Yeah,
So
so
the
it's not
input for Kimberly
not
Clark
necessarily
is
the
going to be
same exact product.
different. Yeah. I think they
Yeah.
use different processes.
Hmm. It's probably different woods are used. Actually, I have no idea. When you buy a 2x4, is it generally going to be a conifer or a hardwood?
Usually they're
Do you know?
softwood for 2
Okay.
by 4s.
Okay. So that's the
Usually some sort of
same
pine.
category that comes into toilet paper, but I have no idea how the supply chain actually differs.
Yeah, because I know for toilet paper, I'm sure they're not too concerned as to like the size that's getting cut. Well, maybe they
Yeah,
are, but
it just needs to be ground into a pulp.
yeah.
I don't know. I was a research engineer for Kimberly Clark, not supply chain, so I don't know.
Well, so that was what I wanted to talk about because when triggers are tripped for things like
Right.
wood, that's something to talk about. You know how it be.
It's pretty crazy. I just want this to happen for platinum next because
Ooh,
I like platinum.
yeah. We shall see. Well, thanks
All
everybody.
right, Ben.
Um,
We got 10 seconds left.
yeah, everybody type in the comment section below what your favorite type of wood is. Sleep good.
Good one. Right.